Okay, once you have graduated and mastered drafting using proper line weights, there are a couple ways that can further enhance that drawing. The two techniques I will be reviewing are poché and drop shadow. And they're typically used on a floor plan. If you're taking my class right now, I'd much rather you practice on line weights and get it down perfectly than going forward. If you don't know what I'm talking about regarding line weights, go back to my other video and look at that video before you proceed with this one. Now let's go to the board. Okay, we're gonna do a demo on how to poché and do drop shadow. So we have two identical plans here that I drew. It looks like a partial plan of a living area, and maybe this is spilled into a kitchen, but they're identical. I use two leads. The partition I use a 2B, and the rest of the lines are done with an F. When would you use a poché, or when would you use drop shadow? I mean, I knew what these plans are because I drew them. But if you look at it, or if someone have to look at this plan, they might not know exactly what they're looking at, such as, is this a partition or is this a piece of furniture? So there's a couple ways that we can enhance the information on this plan. So I'm going to do this top one first with a poché. So typically what I would do is after I draw this, and poché meaning basically is just to color or to shade in the areas that you want to shade in. And rather than doing on the front of the drawing, which is where the lines are, what I like to do is to do it from the back. So I would flip over my paper. In this case, this is vellum. Vellum is relatively translucent, so I can see all the line work here. And then here's the trick. I would take a piece of paper, and what I would typically do, whether you want to use lead or ink, and I would line up the edge of my paper and just do and shade in this way. So therefore, I will always get a nice clean edge. And do it this way. Notice I am not really arcing my hash lines. They're in one direction. When you arc them, they will have a different effect. So make sure that when you are doing your hash lines, they are in one direction. You have a better effect that way. So here's all the partition that was poché in the back, and this is the effect you get from the front. Notice it's much nicer. You still see all your lines, and the partition now is darkened, so then this stands out. So that's how you do a poché. So let's talk about here. We want to highlight the furniture. So one way to do it is to do a drop shadow. It is essentially putting a shadow around the furniture items. So what I consider the furniture, since I drew them, so here we have a sectional sofa. Okay, my video cut out on me in the middle of this shoot, so the drop shadow got dropped. So I'm gonna try to recreate this again. I had to erase some of these lines, but let me show you what I did. So what drop shadow can help is to enhance the furniture portion of the floor plan. So at this point, what I typically do is to trace the furniture that I want to drop shadow. Now maybe here is where I tape down my drawing so it doesn't move around. And you could hardline it, but I just want to quickly freehand this just for time-wise. I'm using a 2B. I'm going to use a lighter lead. So just going to quickly trace the furniture pieces. Now you can place this furniture outline underneath your paper, and depending what angle of your shadow you want to use, you can use whatever degree, but in this case I'm just going to use a 45 degree where the light is coming from. So I'm thinking about the light is kind of coming from my upper left to right. Line that up. Use your triangle here, right? You can also line up your, you can see like very faint underneath here, all the shadows. So you can tape this down again, or you can just very carefully just draw all your shadow lines. I'm drawing very, very light because I don't want the line of the shadow to really show on the final drawing. And then you want to make sure that you draw the angle. I'm drawing here the tangent of the circle to the tangent of the circle of the shadow. And then you find the exact diameter of the shadow. So I just marked off where all the shadow lines are. So I'll remove the tracing. Now we can see the outline where the shadow is. So you can either do the same that I use for the poché, meaning coloring or shading from the back, or you can just do it in the front, but make sure that the shadow is not the same line weight as your lines. So your lines are still prominent. Using the edge of the paper to kind of get everything really clean, to get your edges really clean that way. So I just finished that. Okay, looks about done. So make sure that your shadow, the tonal value is the same so that it doesn't look out of place. So there you have it. We have two techniques here. One of them is showcasing by pocheing the architecture or the structural elements of the space. That's, as you can see here on the top. And then this technique is drop shadow, where I am showcasing or highlighting the furniture pieces. So you never want to do both. You never want to do both. You never want to do poché and drop shadow at the same drawing, because then it will make it confusing for people to look at. So there you have it.